Football has a rule book. Every player signs it, every manager preaches it, every referee is supposed to enforce it. And then there are the 10 players in this video. These are not the players who got caught, got banned, and became cautionary tales. Those stories are everywhere. This is the other list. The players who looked the referees, the governing bodies, and the entire football establishment directly in the eye, broke the rules in front of millions of people, and walked away completely untouched. Some of them were protected by their clubs, some by their governments, some by the sheer scale of their fame, and a few got away simply because nobody could believe what they had just seen. This is the list football does not want you to keep. The most audacious act of rule-breaking in football history happened in the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City on the 22nd of June, 1986. The FIFA World Cup quarterfinal between Argentina and England. Diego Armando Maradona, Argentina's number 10, rose for a challenge with English goalkeeper Peter Shilton and punched the ball into the net with his left fist. The goal was awarded. Argentina won the match 2-1. They went on to win the World Cup. The photographs taken by agency photographers behind the goal showed the fist contact with absolute clarity. Every official in the stadium had a different angle from the one that mattered. FIFA had no video review process. The goal stood. When asked about it in the press conference afterward, Maradona described the goal as scored a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. He did not correct the record. FIFA did not retroactively review it. The rule he broke was Law 12, handling the ball deliberately. The punishment should have been a direct free kick and a yellow card. What he received instead was a World Cup winner's medal. Thierry Henry, France's captain and record goalscorer, used his left hand to control a ball on the edge of the penalty area in the 103rd minute of the FIFA World Cup qualifying playoff second leg between France and the Republic of Ireland at the Stade de France in Paris on November 18, 2009. Henry controlled the ball twice with his hand, the second control allowing him to cross for William Gallas to head France's winning goal in extra time. France qualified for the 2010 World Cup. Ireland did not. The incident was captured by multiple television cameras from multiple angles. Henry himself admitted immediately after the match that he had handled the ball, telling reporters, and the quote is verified across multiple Irish and French news archives, "I will be honest, it was a handball. But I'm not the referee. I told the referee, but he allowed it." FIFA investigated. FIFA declined to replay the match. The Football Association of Ireland applied for a replay as a one-off exception. FIFA rejected the application, though they did offer the FAI a financial settlement. France went to South Africa. Ireland stayed home. The rule Henry broke was identical to the one Maradona broke 23 years earlier. The outcome was identical too. Zinedine Zidane, the greatest footballer of his generation, and the player widely expected to end his career with a second World Cup winner's medal, headbutted Italian defender Marco Materazzi in the chest in the 110th minute of the 2006 FIFA World Cup final at the Olympiastadion in Berlin on the 9th of July 2006. Zidane was playing in his final professional match. He received a red card and walked off the pitch. France went on to lose the penalty shootout. Materazzi scored one of the successful Italian penalties. The act itself, a deliberate assault on an opponent, was the clearest possible violation of Law 12. The red card was correct. The rule was enforced. By that narrow technical measure, Zidane did not get away with it. What he got away with was the cultural aftermath. The FIFA Best Player of the Tournament award for 2006 was given after considerable deliberation and considerable controversy to Zinedine Zidane. The player who ended the tournament with a violent act that cost his team the World Cup final was voted the best player at that tournament by a committee that knew exactly what had happened in those final minutes. The rule that was not enforced was the one that said consequences should follow conduct. The headbutt cost France the cup. It did not cost Zidane his legacy. He remains one of the most celebrated players in football history, and the Golden Ball sits in his collection. Luis Suarez, Uruguay's striker, deliberately handled a goal-bound shot from Ghana's Dominic Adiyaya with both hands on the goal line in the 120th minute of the 2010 FIFA World Cup quarterfinal between Uruguay and Ghana at Soccer City in Johannesburg on the 2nd of July, 2010. Suarez was sent off. The red card was correct. The rule was applied. Ghana were awarded a penalty. Asamoah Gyan struck the penalty against the crossbar. Uruguay won the subsequent penalty shootout. Ghana were eliminated. Uruguay finished fourth in the World Cup. Suarez served his one-match suspension, missing the semi-final against the Netherlands, and returned to play in the third-place match. He had deliberately committed an act of handball that under any other circumstance would have ended the match in Ghana's favor, accepted the minimum legal punishment, and benefited from the single most costly missed penalty in World Cup history. The rule said the penalty should decide the match. The physics of one crossbar intervened. Suarez celebrated on the touchline as Gyan's penalty hit the woodwork, a reaction he later acknowledged and which became one of the most controversial images in World Cup history. He got away with it, entirely and completely. He still laughs about it in interviews. Roberto Carlos, Brazil's left back, struck a free kick against France in the Tournoi de France in Lyon on June 3rd, curved so far outside the wall that the French goalkeeper Fabien Barthez stepped aside as it appeared to be going wide before it bent back and entered the net at the far post. The rule Roberto Carlos broke was not a football rule. It was the understood law of physics that governed what a football was capable of doing. Physicist Christophe Clanet, in a study published in the New Journal of Physics, calculated that the Roberto Carlos free kick applied approximately 600 revolutions per minute of topspin, combined with a curved trajectory that was only possible within an extraordinarily narrow range of ball velocity and spin. The window in which such a trajectory is physically achievable is so small that reproducing it intentionally is effectively impossible. The goal itself, according to Clanet's published research, sits at the outer boundary of what a spherical object traveling through air at standard atmospheric pressure can do. Barthez stepped aside because the ball was going wide. It wasn't. The rule of physics bent. The goal went in. Nobody stopped the match to recalculate the trajectory. Juventus Football Club, based in Turin, Italy, was found by the Italian Football Federation in May 2006 to have engaged in systematic match manipulation through the Calciopoli scandal, a scheme involving recorded phone calls between Juventus general manager Luciano Moggi and referee designators, in which specific referees were requested for specific Juventus matches. The Italian Football Federation relegated Juventus to Serie B, stripped them of their 2004-05 and 2005-06 Serie A titles. The immediate punishment was among the most severe in Italian football history. What Juventus got away with was the long game. The club returned to Serie A in one season. Champions League qualification followed shortly after. By 2012, Juventus began an extraordinary run of 9 consecutive Serie A titles, a dynasty built on a club infrastructure, a scouting network, and a financial position that had been constructed during the years when the rules were being broken. The competitive advantages accumulated during the Moggi era did not disappear with the man himself. The full phone call archive, more than 100,000 recorded conversations, has never been completely examined in a public judicial process. And Juventus, relegated in disgrace in 2006, were back competing for Champions League trophies within 5 years. The same match, the same player. 4 minutes after the Hand of God goal in the 1986 World Cup quarter-final at the Estadio Azteca, Diego Armando Maradona scored again. This time he received the ball in his own half, ran 60 meters, beat 5 English outfield players and the goalkeeper, and scored what FIFA later voted the goal of the century. The goal was entirely legal. It violated nothing except the dignity of everyone who tried to stop it. The reason it belongs on this list is what it reveals about how rules and reputation interact in football. Had the Hand of God goal been disallowed as it should have been, Maradona's second goal would have been the only goal discussed from that match. The most gifted footballer of his generation, at the peak of his powers, doing something that had never been done before. Instead, it is remembered forever alongside the handball, the illegal goal, and the impossible goal-sharing space in the same 4 minutes. Maradona did not just break the rules, he broke them and then immediately proved he did not need to. That combination is what made him impossible to punish and impossible to forget. Eric Cantona, Manchester United's French forward and one of the most gifted players in Premier League history, launched a 2-footed kung fu kick into the crowd at Selhurst Park in London on January 25th, connecting with Crystal Palace supporter Matthew Simmons, who had run to the front of the stand to confront him as he was being escorted from the pitch following a red card. Cantona received a 9-month ban from all football and was required to perform 120 hours of community service. Matthew Simmons was later convicted of threatening behavior related to the same incident. What Cantona got away with was the aftermath. He returned from his ban in October 1995, scored 19 goals in 30 appearances, won the Premier League title, and was named PFA Players' Player of the Year for the 1995-96 season. Manchester United held a press conference after the incident at which Cantona delivered a statement comparing himself to a sardine and seagulls, a statement that became one of the most quoted pieces of philosophical football commentary in the history of the English game. The kick itself was as clear a violation of the laws of the game as it is possible to commit. Cantona was not banned for life. He was not prosecuted for assault, though Simmons initially pressed charges before later dropping them. He came back, won the league, and retired at 30 on his own terms, having never fully answered for the worst thing he ever did on a football pitch. Liverpool Football Club, trailing 3-0 at halftime of the UEFA Champions League final at the Ataturk Olympic Stadium in Istanbul against AC Milan on the 25th of May, 2005, scored 3 goals in 6 minutes in the second half through Steven Gerrard, Vladimir Smicer, and Xabi Alonso to level the match at 3-3. The rules were not broken by Liverpool. The rules were broken by physics, probability, and the reasonable expectations of everyone who had watched the first 45 minutes. The reason this belongs on this list is the rule that AC Milan broke by assuming the match was over. Alessandro, Nesta, Cafu, Jamie Carragher, and multiple other players who were on the pitch that night have all subsequently given interviews describing how AC Milan's performance in the second half reflected a team that had mentally accepted the outcome. The rules of competitive football, specifically the requirement to apply full effort for 90 minutes regardless of the scoreline, were broken by a side that had stopped trying. Liverpool won the penalty shootout. Liverpool lifted the Champions League trophy. And the city of Istanbul became the location of the most dramatic rule-breaking in the history of the European Cup. FIFA, the governing body of world football, awarded the 2022 FIFA World Cup to Qatar on the 2nd of December 2010. The Sunday Times investigation published in June 2014, the Garcia report commissioned by FIFA itself and partially released in 2014 after internal objections, and the subsequent Swiss federal criminal investigations collectively documented a pattern of corruption surrounding multiple FIFA Executive Committee votes, including the 2018 and 2022 World Cup votes, involving alleged payments to committee members and officials connected to bidding nations. Sepp Blatter, FIFA president at the time of the 2010 vote, was suspended by FIFA's Ethics Committee in 2015 and banned from football-related activities for 8 years. The 2022 World Cup was held in Qatar in November and December 2022. 32 nations competed. Argentina won. The tournament attracted a global television audience of approximately 5 billion viewers across the tournament. The rule that was broken was the fundamental requirement of competitive integrity that the award of the sport's most prestigious tournament should be determined by the quality of the bid, and Qatar 2022 happened. The rules were broken at the highest possible level of world football. The game went on. 10 players, 10 institutions, 10 moments where football's rulebook met the reality of what football actually is. A sport built on extraordinary human talent, operating inside institutional structures that have never been fully equal to the task of controlling it. The rules exist. They are enforced, unevenly, selectively, and with outcomes that sometimes depend more on the fame of the person breaking them than on the severity of the breach. Because the thing about football, the thing that makes it different from every other sport, is that breaking the rules and creating history are sometimes the same act. Maradona proved that in 69 minutes in Mexico City in 1986, the rulebook says what happened, the footage shows what actually happened, and the debate between the two will continue for as long as the game is played.